You're listening to a new episode of Girl Down Podcast with your host, me, Aon. So sit back, relax, and listen as I unpack the uncertainty of my 30s, one episode at a time. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Girl Down Podcast, me, Aon, and today I have a very, very special guest with me, somebody that's very important to me, somebody that we go back, and I'm just so happy just to have them and just to be in conversation with them today. Welcome the iconic, pioneer in what we do, Xem Van Adams. How are you doing?
First of all, that is a lot for me, but I'm gracious and I appreciate you so much. Especially because,
keep going.
Especially because, through my entire journey, you have been in a very amazing, consistent support. And I feel like it really does make me proud to see what you're doing in the media landscape. And for you to invite me to be a part of it is an incredible opportunity, because I, in a lot of ways, have watched you as well, like just on your academic journey, your life journey. So being a part of this for me is important, and I'm really glad to be here tonight. Truly, I am. I'm gonna drink my tea as we go along.
Yeah, of course, drink your tea. Sometimes we sip wine on here. We're all adults here, but drink your tea. We want the vocal cords lubricated because we have a lot of things to talk about. So
I know
where I want to start the conversation off. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, how you identify, and all of that, and what you do now. Let's start there.
Okay, so I'm born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore's my stomping grounds. I've only ever lived in Philadelphia. When I first graduated from high school, I went to Temple University. And in my 20s, I relocated to Los Angeles, California for a minute, which is where a lot of people discovered me. Over the years, I kind of took a step away from my online journey, and I started delving more into, I wouldn't call it corporate because it's not so corporate, but I am in mental health. So I operate professionally as a behavioral specialist. So I work with a lot of youth between the ages of 8 and 18 who suffer from various maladaptive behaviors, emotional disorders, some with undiagnosed mental issues. I do now work with adults as well. A lot of my clients stem from the inner city of Baltimore, but they also exist in Baltimore County and some in Delaware as well. So that's where my root work is and has been over the past 8 years.
So we're going to go back to where I first formally became aware of you, and when we had our like internet relationship. And in addition to, we both are Baltimoreans.
Yes.
We both have in common we're Baltimore City College graduates.
Yes.
I feel like some of the best people that are out in the world or have voices come from that school. I'm sorry, facts are facts, be mad, but yeah. But I met, so for the audience that don't know, I used to do YouTube back in the golden, well, not even the golden age, we call it the dark ages of YouTube. So like the late 2000s. So from like 2006 when YouTube first started up to like 2011, I was really heavy into making YouTube videos. And through that, there was a very strong Black LGBT presence of content creators. And you were one of those voices. You were one of those people when you were active making YouTube videos. I will always watch your videos because you were so smart, you were so articulate, you were so passionate. And the one video that I remember was the video that you made in reference to supporting Isis King, who at the time was in the midst of her first season of America's Next Top Model. Yeah. And you were speaking about standing up, being an ally against transphobia back when that really wasn't the thing to do, right. Especially right. in the Black LGBTQ community. Right. You were really standing up, being a voice, just having a presence and just mentoring people like through your words and your presence. And I remember we connected, and I don't remember if we connected online, but the first time we met in person, and it was like some type of event in Baltimore, and we got to meet each other in person, and it was just great to know that somebody that was on the same platform that I was on came from the same place that I was on, and I would just see you throughout the city. But those early days of YouTube were a very magical time. I think about you. I think about the Scorpion show when they were in their heyday. Diamond Styles. Your boy knew Alonzo Larone. Can you tell us just about the zeitgeist of that time and what it was like to be a YouTube creator and how you got into doing that?
And I spoke about this actually when I did my I did my live on Instagram back in March, because it's funny. I think sometimes when you organically exist in a certain space, and during that time, and you remember, this was before anybody was talking about brands and building brands and trying to, the idea of being a content creator, trying to get deals, trying to build a career. None of that existed. Like when we were on YouTube, it was during a time where people literally told stories for the sake of sharing, for the sake of educating, for the sake of critiquing, informing. I don't think many of us were there during that time to build or establish a career or to create this audience of followers who would make one of our videos go viral so that we could end up somewhere. Like that just wasn't a part of what being on YouTube was. And I think that's why for me, I think what happened during that time, I got a chance at least once to meet every single individual who was an active member of that creative process. I remember being in LA, and every Saturday morning I would get up, and every Saturday morning I would record a new video that I spent the entire week, thinking about, planning. And because I was living in LA, being away from my family and my friends for the second time in my life, but the first time not like seeing them for months and months at a time, I was, and as crazy as this may sound, I was really oblivious to my reach, because I never watched any of my videos again after I would release them. I never would go back and read the comments underneath my video. I always read and responded to what people sent me. So it still felt very small to me, because even though I was getting, messages every day, but I don't think I really understood the reach until I came back and then went to Atlanta for it was a Pride, when I got to meet a lot of the other personalities, and for the first time. But it's funny because during that time, I didn't worry about money was not an issue for me. I wasn't worried about, relationships. I wasn't conscious. The things that that are so conscious in my space every day, that time was, it was almost magical, not because of the attention or the notoriety, but just because I was doing something that felt really good to me. I felt so good getting up every day, blogging, posting articles that other people in the world would connect to and would send me messages about. I love the fact that during that period of time, I really did make time to respond to everybody, because people today will send me copies, like literally, of responses that I sent to them. Those were the moments that meant something to me. It wasn't as calculated. It wasn't as
right.
It was so organic, and it felt really, really, really good. Like I'm gonna tell you something. People say all the time about, what my video meant to them, or what I said, how this made them feel. But that was one of the best. I think about that period. I felt at one of my highest spiritually. I felt at one of my highest emotionally. And I can tell you the honest to God truth, since that period, I don't think I've ever had a consecutive, I don't think I've had years consecutively that have felt similar, just because now that I am a real adult, I have real adult responsibilities that I'm so conscious of all the time. I don't know that I would ever have a period of time where I could just get in front of the camera and release content and not focus on how it's being received and how many views it receives and the engagement. Everything now is so calculated, even right. If I want to pretend like it doesn't matter, but it's hard for it not to, because of what social media is compared to what it was. It's very difficult to just create for the sake of creating. I would love to replicate that, but I also realize now, like, even in putting out the 2 videos recently that I have, that time in my life has passed. It's like, as much as I try to be the Xem Van Adams of yesteryear, it's just not, it doesn't feel the same, because everything is so, I'm too conscious of it. I'm too conscious of everything. Whereas before it was like, I was just writing and recording because I loved it. It made me feel good. I had a lot on my chest. I had lived, at least I had been out at that time for at least 8 or 9 years. And I was telling these stories about my life and things I had experienced. And it just so happens that what I was saying and what I had experienced, other people had. But now it's different, because if you think about it, when we were creating, when we were telling stories, it was still a little bit taboo to do. Now it's the thing to do. Like being trans, being gay, it's the trend,
right.
And so the content that we were creating then, releasing it now, it just kind of, gets swallowed in the mass content that's created by everybody else. It's very different. I was having a conversation with an associate of mine last Friday. We had breakfast together, and he gave me some critical information that about my platform and how I display myself and how I overshare. And he was just giving me tips about, like, if you want to get to this space, these are the things you need to change. These are the things you need to do. And I've really been sitting with that for the past week, because
you don't want to do any of that. You don't want. I think we're going to get to a part in the conversation where, and I think the thing that I like about our connection is that our journey, even though we're at different spaces, they kind of mirror each other because I think when you took a step back from Facebook, I took a step back. I mean, not from Facebook, from YouTube. I kind of took a step back from YouTube content because I kind of felt like I got to the point where at that particular time in my life, I didn't have any more short stories to tell. Yeah. Also, my life was changing. My life was, and I was going through things that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with revealing. And I just felt like, especially at that point in my life, at that point in my transition, that there was just some things that I needed to live life more before I could get on camera and really be this person. It would be a point where it would be so hard for me to upload stuff because I had become overly critical, like back, and this was back in like 2012, 2011.
Okay.
So I took a step back from, like, I was still in community and stuff, but I wasn't the social media person that people knew me, as that version back then. So can you tell me a little bit, because it was a period where you were very active and you were posting, and then there was kind of a period where you kind of like receded into life and the people didn't. So what, like, did anything precipitate that, or just, what changes happened that kind of pulled you away?
I noticed, and things sort of happened parallel. So around the time when I started stepping away, it was also during a time where the content of Black LGBT creators was changing, because reality television was becoming a larger, it was taking up a larger space in pop culture. So, and I, during that time, was becoming very frustrated because I was transitioning into my 30s. And even though we're not supposed to compare ourselves to our friends, I grew up with my friends. My friends are not people from social media. My friends are literally, whenever you see me in pictures with people, these individuals have known me since I was a child, since I was a teenager. My friends are lifelong. So watching my friends sort of start buying homes, buying their second and third cars, really, settling into careers, and I'm still financially like struggling, not being able to completely take care of myself, living off of Google checks and things just wasn't enough for me, anymore. I didn't realize the blessing. And that's the thing. It's like, during that period of time, and I'm even though people may not believe this, but I genuinely did not fully understand or know or see my reach. Because for me, and I know this, I don't want this to sound egotistical in any capacity, but for me, my whole life, I always received attention, especially in high school. High school, City for me was like Zach Morris on Saved by the Bell. Do you know what I mean? Like, so by the time I became an adult, it's not that I didn't care about all of that, but it doesn't, if you're used to something and it's always been a part of your life, it doesn't faze you as much. So some people hold on to social media really tight because it's like, this is where I get my attention. This is where I get my accolades. This is where I get my praise. Like, so I've got to post every day. That wasn't enough to hold me. And again, I didn't fully understand that what I was creating had reached so many people. So I didn't understand and think taking a step back was a big deal. I just felt like I want to get my financial life in order. I want to, I want my credit cards again. I want my fully furnished place again. I want, my various bank accounts again. I chose to run back the comfort. The way that I am as an Aquarius and somebody who suffers from OCD, whatever I'm focused on becomes my major focus. So when it was YouTube and blogging, it was YouTube and blogging. That's all I did. I didn't care about anything else. It was just that. And so when I started working again and saving and putting my credit back in order and doing all of those things, I focused solely on that. But along the way, I literally, I stopped logging in online. I stopped reading messages. I stopped watching other people. I became very detached. And when that happens, sometimes number one, your audience, they don't forget about you, but they're going to move on because they still crave that content. So they're going to find that content in someone else. You know what I mean? And then around that time, you have, like I said, the content itself was changing. Now everybody's critiquing housewife shows. You have, Kid Fury and Crystal, the podcasting blows up, and I'm chasing the dollar. Like I am, now I'm making $60,000. Okay, now I need to make 70. I'm making $70,000. Now I want to make 80. Like I'm trying to make all this money. Then my son, who started off as a client, his grandmother dies. The family wasn't equipped for that. They weren't prepared for that. And I kind of then started wrapping myself around him and using my resources to help him and keep him in school and keep him focused and keep him motivated, getting him into football and all these other things. So my life became like work, my son, money, and just, anybody who I was romantically linked with, along with just my normal social life. But I wasn't going out like that. Like I had stopped really clubbing. And I didn't start really missing it until around 2000. It may have been about, I know when it was. It was 2015. Because in 2015, if you go back, you'll notice I tried to start coming back on and putting out videos. And then I paid this videographer and his team to record my friends and I doing like this.
That was gonna pivot to my next question. So before you did the video in March, there were a couple of times where you peeked back out, and I remember one of the projects was and Dante Balenciaga was part of the.
This is one of Dante's shirts.
Yes.
Devious Designs, Black Lives Matter. He gave this to me during the pandemic when I wasn't proud of my body, so I never wore it. And I told him, I was like, I'm gonna wear this for you tonight. So yeah, this is one of his.
I love me some Dante. I love Dante dearly, but
he is a core figure.
So what was that? So before we got to a couple months ago, you were living life, you were handling your business, but what was that spark? What was that thing that just brought you out just to peak? Like what was that?
Before March, you mean back in 2015?
Yeah, back in 2015. And then if the spark was still the same, did it change? Like what was it that brought you back? Because I believe what we start out doing, that's who we really are at our core, right?
Yes.
Like just the create, and that part of us, it never dies. It's just life situations happen and you have to respond to those. But I believe that who we are and the things that we really want to do, those things in us don't die. And it's okay to let those things out every once in a while. So like what was that spark to make you do those things?
My friend Jamel is I talk about Jamel a lot because he is my one friend who he will, like, if we go out to dinner or we're hanging and he'll just say something like, you need to post something. Like, you have people who still care about you. You have people who want to hear from you. He will push me to, like, he's the whole reason why, I'm being honest, he's the whole reason why I've been present during this time. But to go back to 2015, so Dante, Nate, and I literally every day in the year leading up to that point, we would talk. And in group chat. And we would talk about a lot of issues and a lot of topics that I know other people are having in their group chat communities with friends. I was hoping that on camera, it would translate the same. Looking back at it, I mean, to be 100%, I'm not now pleased with that project because it did not translate on camera the way that it does, but more so because we couldn't really use names and we couldn't use people's photos. I wanted something raw, but I also had to remember that, you know, you can't, people's business was still on the line. I thought that project, and I don't know that I've ever even said this out loud. So now here I am, I am a victim of this branding, this, videos and programs propelling people into different opportunities. And I thought, okay, I'll come back and I'll start doing, putting out videos again, and I'll start sending these videos out, attaching it to, my media kit. And this will open doors for me to, write for different digital platforms. This will create opportunities for me to be able to like host other programs, and, people will pull me to do this and do that. It was really, again, calculated. Those 2015 videos, none of it was done purely. It was all done because for me, it was, all right, if I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this, then it needs to propel me into a different space. I need this to, take everything that I was doing on YouTube and everything that I was doing on my blog to the next level. And that's why, for me, I realized when you in life sometimes do things for gain as opposed to doing it for the joy, the love, and the purity of it. Even if, let's say, that content would have materialized into something, I don't believe that something would have given me the fulfillment that I was probably searching for then, because I was doing it more so because, one, I was pushed, and two, because I was like, fine, if I'm gonna do this, then it needs to materialize into something that will take me to the next level. Because let truth be told, who wants to sit on YouTube creating videos for the rest of their life? I mean, if I look at anybody who started with me, if I look at the B. Scotts, I look at the Scorpion and Mikhail, I look at Alonzo Larone, your boy Nunu, A Connection TV,
ADTV.
Yeah, no, it got to a point with everybody. And I know just from conversations or even if I didn't have a direct conversation with them, but things that I've seen them do, everybody's intention at a certain point became, I want this platform to take me to the next level, because it became at that point a possibility. We began to see that more can come from this. You know what I mean? So yeah, me coming back out in 2015 was, financially, I was very stable. I was very comfortable. And it was like, okay, now I want everything that I did in the past to take me to that next point. So a lot of that was very, very calculated. And I think that's why watching stuff now, those videos from that year, I probably am not the most proud of, because those are the ones that I probably rehearsed what I was going to say before I said, very planned. I very much watched the numbers. It was just very, very different. It was very different for me.
I appreciate you for being honest and just that level of authenticity, because I feel like people people are not really honest with their intentions. And I just know, so when I decided to come back in some type of like social media platform, when I did my previous podcast with my former best friend, I didn't want to do the podcast for those same reasons, because it had got to the point that, you know, if I put myself out there and I do it, it has to be like this and it has to sound like this, and just putting on that pressure to, we have to make this amount of numbers by episode 5, and especially when you put that type of pressure on yourself, you don't really sit in the moment. And the thing that I've learned from podcasting and for doing it going on 3 years now.
Congrats on that.
Now people want, I think we're at a moment, and this is why when you came back this last time, why I was so excited. Audiences now are smart, so they know when people are trying to feed them the brand, or they like, they're sophisticated. They know people connect to authenticity, and this is what I tell anybody that is starting a podcast. And one, you have to find a medium that works for you. I like podcasting because I can do it by myself, or I can collaborate, and I just like the low maintenance compared to making YouTube videos. But people connect to authenticity. And one of the reasons that I want to do a podcast now, like it's beyond me just wearing my transness and trans. Like, okay, we get it. People have a familiarity, but people want to hear the other stuff that I'm dealing with in my life, because there are just so many things that are relatable about me and things that I'm going through. I think people now, they like people who are willing to show that they are not perfect and that they're not just polished image. And when you came back in March and you were really honest about your journey, honest about, you know, how painful it was when you tried to put yourself out there for opportunities and they didn't material. It really, what I saw when you came back in March, you were really somebody that you were ahead of your time. You were ahead of your time. Also, we didn't get into it, but you wrote a TV show and you tried to pitch a TV show pre-streaming era, pre-digital TV era. And because when you're a pioneer, you're going to get bruised, and people are going to tell you can't do this, you can't. Now, if you were to come out with it, or you were to be innovative like this, it will be a whole market for you. But back then, But somebody from YouTube.
I said this. It's so funny because I said this. I think I was talking to Derek Briggs, as a matter of fact. I do sometimes feel like we were out before we really should have been, because I swear to you, and people who know me in real life can attest to the fact that I'm telling the truth. I would literally go on pitch meetings with BET, and at that time, and I can't say his name, but at that time, the vice president of original programming was a gay Black man, and he was the first one to say to me, well, you know, he was familiar with me. He was familiar with my online. I guess that's how I got the meeting. He was familiar with my online content. And what he wanted from me was what I was pitching to him. He wanted that to appear on their, I guess at that time they were, this was before streaming, but they had something in the works that would be like people could log on to their website and watch content. And he was saying that there would be this section of, I guess they were calling it alternative programming. And I was just kind of like, whoa, that's really what I'm doing now. Like, I'm trying to come off the internet. Like, I really want to. I probably still should have run with that opportunity. But again, me not having the knowledge that I do now and the understanding about, if you start here where nobody is occupying this space and you do really well here, then you graduate. You know, it was, for me, it was like, oh, I'm tired of this. This isn't feeding my pockets. I enjoy it, but I also need to make money. I want to be in front of a larger audience. Because again, like I said, I'm not aware of, even though I could see the numbers on my videos and things, to me, what I didn't understand also was that there were people watching me who never were subscribed, who never were following my social media. They were still watching because I could have 10,000 subscribers, but a video that's been watched 134,000 times. You know what I mean? People are aware of you, Zim. But in my mind, it was like, well, I can't even pay my car note this month. And I can't, I can't even do this. And I kept comparing my life financially, where I was financially at that point to where I was before I moved to LA, looking at where my friends were. And I got frustrated because it wasn't just BET. It was, well, I don't want to call out all the, but it was.
You don't have to call out the names,
but I just definitely, it was frustrating being rejected time and time and time again. And I actually had someone who is a big presence in pop culture right now, a female who got behind me and helped pitch my material. And even with her, it was just kind of like, and it's funny because when I see some of the things that are out now, and I'm like, yo, like, if I would have just waited, like 6 more years, 7 more years. But there's things going on in my life right now that, and I don't know.
Were they a result of the video, or were they a result of you coming back on Instagram, or were they
the things that are happening now?
Yes. You don't have to say what they are, but
So what I'm talking about, it is. So if I start talking about it, I might get emotional. That's all. I just want to let you know that
okay.
it could happen. I've been doing a lot of prayer. Now, I'm not a religious person. I am very spiritual. My relationship with God, even though I was raised to believe in God and to pray, I genuinely believe that my relationship with God really became strong while I was living in California. And I say that because, and I don't speak about this very often, but there are certain moments in my life where God has said certain things to me. And I have learned to listen. I mean, older people will tell you this kind of stuff, but when you're younger, you don't understand. Because if you don't have a relationship with God and you don't have a connection to the universe, you're literally looking for those words to sound like you talking to me talking to you.
Right.
The reason why I know something is getting ready to happen, and I can't even tell you, I don't know exactly what it is, but the reason why I know that something is getting ready to happen is because of the fact that certain people who have, it's wild. There are certain people right now who are being removed from my life that if you were to ask me, or were to ask me if this person would be standing beside me at my father's funeral or my mother's funeral, I would be like, absolutely. There are certain people being taken out of my life right now that I thought would be here forever. There are certain feelings about my job and my career that I never had before that are starting to surface. How the things that are happening right now is what happened before I moved to LA. So I don't know what this means, but when God takes people away, you're in transition.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes when a woman who's been trying to give birth or wanting to get pregnant for so long finally gives birth and has a daughter, the grandmother in the family dies. or you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You look at when Jennifer Hudson, and this was while I was in LA, when Jennifer Hudson's career started soaring and she's winning Grammys and Oscars and things, her family, her mother, her brother, taken away from her. When we're in transition and things for us are happening, things we've prayed for, it's a part of the sacrifice. I've never asked for it, but I can tell. And here's something else, and this may sound really stupid. What I'm getting ready to say may sound really stupid, but for me, it is a big deal. So I always, one of my, and I talked about this in my live. One of my biggest insecurities, my only physical insecurity, was always when my hair started thinning. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've worn hats my whole life. So it wasn't initially, I wasn't covering anything up because I love hats, always wore hats. But when my hair started thinning, you know, I always tried to hide it. And it's like, I always knew that in life, if I ever truly wanted to be in media or on television in front of people, I wasn't going to be able to hide behind hats forever. And it's like now I'm more comfortable than ever. Like I've never been so comfortable just showing my head, because I always feared that. I always feared, this may sound stupid, but I always feared that an opportunity would come and I would have to be in front of a lot of people, but the producers or the directors or whomever would be like, you can't wear your hat. You can't have your hat on. And to me, that was a fear. That was like a really, 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 that was a big deal for me. Small things, little things that I never really came to grips with or understood or paid attention to are happening. So I don't know what the transition is, but I know that something's getting ready to happen just because of, it's like the people that are being taken away, an individual that has just like come in, a lot of certainty that I'm having that my time at my company is wearing down. Whereas before I felt like I could retire here. You know what I mean? Like I've been here almost 10 years. I'm praised here. I'm very acknowledged here. I'm given a lot of recognition here. I love my work. I love my clients. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm at a point, well, I'm not going to go so much into it, but it's like God is starting to show me that there's life beyond this. And I know in the beginning of this year, I said, before I even came back online, I said, this is going to be a year of change. I do not want to celebrate another birthday in the same position. I said that. And I can't tell you exactly what's getting ready to happen, but I know it's something, because the way that the universe is moving me and moving people around me, it's almost like, you know, I just heard you say something about your ex-best friend. Not the kind of person that has a lot of drama in my life. I don't have a lot of he say, she say, fights, problems. I don't have a lot of that. So when people leave me or leave my life, it's not because something happened. It's not because there was a fight, there was an argument, there was a discrepancy. It's not because something happened, you know? So God is making room. And I don't know if it's for somebody or something, but God is saying they can't be a part of this next chapter. And it's like, I cried about it. I'm being honest. I mean, I literally cried about it. But then I realized, like, Zim, listen, you prayed. And sometimes you pray and God is going to answer it and it's going to make things happen, but it's not going to be designed exactly the way that you may have pictured it. You thought that he's protecting me. And so I have to be okay with it. Because if I try to hold on, then it's in a way you're blocking your blessing. I don't know what this person has said, done, could have done, would do behind my back. I don't know. God has seen it. So this person's been removed. It hurt me, but you know, I'm ready.
Yeah, I believe that when shifts happen, the universe will make your life. It'll make something that was once comfortable very uncomfortable for you to get you up out of it. And speaking of my ex-best friend, who, even though things didn't work out with us business-wise, which led to our relationship, I still love her down.
Absolutely.
But it was just signs that I was seeing in reference to us moving to the next level, and I kept on ignoring it because it's like, this is my friend, I love her, and we didn't have it blowing up. But I decided I have to stand on my own and remove myself from that situation, because when I started doing I didn't initially want to do the podcast. I was just fine, like living my life, but once I started doing the podcast and I got into it kind of felt like a purpose, and I got more serious about it, and it revealed to me that, but just because I'm taking it serious doesn't mean that other folks are going to take it serious.
Right.
And that our configuration, it was necessary for that phase, but I was going to have to, and I had a lot of reservations about stepping out on my own, and I was scared, and I didn't know if I could do it, and I was comfortable. But ultimately that came to pass, and I had to step out on my own. And though I miss our friendship and our on-air dynamic, I'm really good in the space that I'm in. I really feel like I'm giving folks the most authentic version of myself. I'm not hiding anything. I don't have any secrets. And I feel like I have so many stories to tell. And whether this podcast does successful or whether either one person listens to it, I'm very content with that. And I feel like my creativity is opened up in a whole different type of way. Like, I would like to transition into just television writing, not to get rich or anything, but I feel like podcasting opened up. It's given me the confidence to want to pursue other creative sides of myself in order to fulfill my soul. Because just making money and being successful and while that stuff is great, it's not the end all be all. And you really, and the beauty of this time is that you can really be anything that you want to be if you have the passion, if you have the right people around you that are going to encourage you, that are going to link you to their networks, and really, and it sounds like you have that. Like, you have that one person in your ear, like, you should do this, like you should, and we all need friends like that around us.
That I do. You're right. No, that I do.
Yeah, that are going to hold us up during those dark times, or even when we don't think we have it in us to do it. And I'm happy that we are both on the other side. And it warmed my heart so much just to see you. First of all, just to see you on Instagram. You know, whenever somebody that doesn't usually come on Instagram live, when you see them go live, it's just like, oh, they're on live now. They're on Instagram. So when I saw you on Instagram, I was like, oh, all right. But just to see you just be so vulnerable and really tell and just to still see that spark that I saw when I first saw your video in 2008, like that same innocent, genuine spark, to see that hadn't died through all of the natural progressions of your life, and to still see that in you, to see that fire. And however that's going to manifest now, I'm really excited to see whatever it is that you're going to do, because I know at the center of it is going to be you. How did you feel after you made that video, and what was the response
after the live?
Yeah.
Let me tell you. So, you know, when I came back on Valentine's Day, I had posted a picture on Valentine's Day, and then 3 days later, I posted a picture for my birthday. That was supposed to be it. I was going to go back to my life and just, you know what I mean? I just wanted to tap in, and Jamel was pushing me, and I was like, all right, cool, whatever. The live, when you say certain things out loud and you receive that energy from people, and you haven't been around these individuals for so long, it reminds you of the familiar feeling. It felt really good, but at the same time, I wish I could sometimes be on social media the way that other people are, because there's a large part of me that still feels like I have to respond to every message. And that's why Jamal and them, Bilal, they be like that. You don't got to put that kind of pressure on yourself. Just enjoy being. I don't want people ever thinking that I think that I'm better than them or too good, but it does become overwhelming when you're just wanting to share and just post a picture. But if you have 130 comments, I don't know how people just ignore. And I don't know how you can feel good about just not saying shit to people, knowing that they can see that you saw their message. But it's like, I want to be on social media now. I really do. I just created a close friends list so that it's like I can share myself and not feel obligated, because these people like know me. And so, right. You know what I mean? We can text and talk and they're not going to take it personally. It's very different. But that was also advice that was given to me during my breakfast as well. You know, I'm going to be very transparent with you and very honest with you. I am not right now in my life. I don't want to create anything for the sake of just creating it. If I take my money and my time to produce a show like For the Boys, which I think is such a phenomenal piece of work. If I am to do something like that, I want that project to, be shopped at festivals. I want, to be able to pitch that project to networks. I want something to come of it. I'm not putting my money, my time, my effort, my energy into something just for the internet, because I've done it. And the internet does allow us to create and share with mass audiences, but I don't know any creator, honestly, like not in my age bracket. I don't know too many people who literally use their money and their time to create work, and they're really satisfied if only 500 people watch it and nothing comes of it. God bless you if you do, but I'm not in that space anymore. Like and maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe part of the problem is that I'm looking constantly for something because that's how I am. When I go to the gym and I work out every day and I'm sacrificing and not eating donuts, but instead eating this and this, I want to see my body change. When I go and see 47 clients in a week and I'm doing all these reports, when I get my check, that check needs to be large enough to take care of all of my bills, put money in savings, give money to my son, and shop if I want to. Everything that I put out into the universe tangibly, I do want to return it. Like that's just, and I think that also became a part of the issue for me. Because I didn't understand my reach being online, for me, it became selfish. It became, oh, I'm doing this for nothing. I'm giving so much of my energy, and at the end of the day, I can't even take care of myself. I'm not doing this anymore. It's different if I had if Jamal was talking to me then the way that he talks to me now, then I would have understood that God was using me as a servant and that he was using my voice to reach people who were missing his message. If I would have understood that then maybe I would not have run away so much to just feed myself. And I would have grasped the idea that period of time wasn't about Zim and about Zim having a career or Zim this, Zim that. It was about everybody else. I was serving the people the way that I serve people now. But let me ask you a question. Do you sometimes feel like, does it sometimes frustrate you that you're always looked at as the strong person? You're the person who everybody comes to. You're the person always fighting for everybody else. You're the person always fueling. Don't you sometimes feel like, well, like when do I get to, like have someone or something fuel me? Do you ever get that feeling, or does all of your fulfillment come from giving? Does all your energy come from giving?
In these last recent years, I've been, as a matter of fact, one of my first episodes of this particular podcast, I talked about how I'm over being the dependable friend. It's just that especially with this next phase of my life, I want to do stuff for me. Like, it's about my pleasure, me being selfish and fueling my dreams. And part of that is actually being able to vocalize the things that that's why I'm thankful for the time that I was away. And I didn't have the pressure of performing to a camera, because I really got to know myself in such a deep and intimate way, so that now I can be on this other side. These are exactly what I want. These are my goals. And this is the direction I'm going in. And you're either going to be with me or you're going to have to get off the ride. And I think once you get very clear about your dreams and what direction that you're going in, having those conversations with the people around you and really asking for what you want, that's something that's become very easy for me, especially now, especially with my podcast. Like, trying to, it's not enough just for me to have the conversations and curate the conversations. Now I have to kind of go out there. It's not enough to just know that I have the gift, but I have to go out there and curate my audience and be consistent with them. And it's not about a brand. More so, it's about me knowing that I have a gift and learning how to have my gift and what I bring to the world, how to have it sustain me. And that's what I love so much about this particular time, is that just through different mediums, you can leverage the special, unique thing that you bring to the world, and you can use it to sustain yourself. If you want this content, if you want it to look a certain way, then the audience has to invest in it. And the beautiful thing is about curating your audience and curating your base, especially when they're authentic and they feel connected to you. What I've learned is people will support you. Like, people will find it. Like, they won't just send you messages. That people really believe in what you're doing, they will open up their, and I even do it for things that I like, for things that I want to see content for. People will, because we're getting away from the people feeding you what they think the art, like, people want realness, people want authenticity. And if you're consistent enough, and you're not trying to, and people are sophisticated, they know when it's not authentic. They'll support you. And the fact that I had the same consistent amount of people that listen to the show every week, people financially support me on Patreon, that's a blessing to me, especially when I didn't think one person would support me. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And
that's
I think
phenomenal.
now people want control. People want to, whether you want to be online or whether you want to go the traditional route, people want to be in control of their work and really infuse the trueness of who they are into the things that they're putting out into the world. And I think that's what is beautiful about this time. And I think what's unique about us is we know how it was. And we've lived so much life that now we know how it should be. And we have that awareness that most people don't have. So go ahead.
Are you, like, how do you, because I think for me, one of the biggest hurdles, I cannot tell you how many people in my life and in my audience keep trying to push me to do a podcast, but I know that requires weekly, like, you every single week you need to release a series. Where do you find the energy, the balance to do your day-to-day and then every single week perform?
So now my previous podcast, we did stuff every week, and that burnt me out. I'm not going to lie, that burned me out. So now with this particular podcast, the feeling comes in waves. So I have some times where I'm really productive, and then I have some weeks that I don't post nothing because life is too much or work is too much. But I'm very, I think I've curated an audience where my audience is very gentle with me, and I'm very transparent. Like, I need a break. Like, I need a break. Y'all know what I do. Y'all know this is not my only thing. And my audience is very understanding, and I'm very gracious that when I do get in my swing and I am feeling productive, that I am, because at the end of the day, I'm not a robot. I'm human.
Absolutely.
I go through life. And also don't, everybody is not meant to podcast. It takes a certain love of the medium and just like learning the ins and outs. You have to figure out which medium works best for you. Now,
right.
YouTube has changed a lot since we've been on there, and but if YouTube works for you, it's fine. If Instagram Lives work for you, you can that's fine. If TikTok works for you, that's fine. If Facebook,
you know what I want to do though? You know what I want to do, which is, so I would love if you remember, like, I mean, you started off saying YouTube was a different space when we started. I would love if something else somehow came about where I am a part of that building phase. So when podcasting became a thing and we, everybody started, I mean, podcasts were always out, but it didn't become a thing in pop culture for us until maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And so what I'm saying is that I would love to be a part of something that is just starting out. And I don't necessarily even mean online. I'm just talking about a program of sorts, like when Real World in 1991 and 1992, that was a new form of television, of taking these 7 strangers and putting them in a home. I'm just saying, I would love now to be a part of something that is just being introduced, something new, something that hasn't already been oversaturated. That kind of has been a part of my prayer. But more than anything, like, I would really, really love to do a teen summit type, like I would love to host or even produce like a teen summit type show, because the individuals in the audience that's my son, those are my clients, this is who I work with every single day. And I could blend my professional background knowledge with, my personality, my speaking, my passion, my creativity, my ability to produce. I would love to do something like that. But I know for a fact, I can tell you, I don't know what the transition is. I don't even know if it's really career, but there's a lot changing in my life right now. And it's not by mistake. Like, I know because I never started any other year within the past eight. I never started a year saying, this is my last birthday working as a full-time behavioral specialist and as a part-time family service counselor. This is my last year doing this. This is my last year, solely focused on my son and my financial portfolio. I said that. And I had never said that before. This was my first year networking. I've now had communication with Candy and Don Juan and the cast of the new series. I wasn't networking and talking to people like that. I had really fallen off the grid, and I was cool with it. But after that March 1st live, I knew. I was like, I can't keep pretending like this doesn't matter to me. Like, I can't keep pretending that I'm good just making 6 figures and taking care of my kid. Like, I can't pretend that I don't want this. I can't lie anymore. And that's why I was saying to people, don't let money dictate your life. Because the truth is, I can eat out 7 days a week. I can shop at any store I want to. I can go on any car lot, but I don't care. Right. Like, I literally don't care. When you look at I hope that when you look at my social media, it doesn't look like, I'm dangling things in your face. I mean, I may show my life And because I have things, it may be a part of what, but it's never the focus. I'm not that person. I don't care. I'm at a point in my life now where as long as I can feed myself and pay my bills to keep my credit where it is, you can have everything else and let me just be creative. Like, I'm serious. That was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life, was moving back to Baltimore to fix my credit and make money to live a stable life. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. And I'm not saying for people to quit their jobs and be a starving artist, but if God is allowing you to create and you are reaching other people in the process, and this is something you actually love doing, and he's making a way for you to do it, you are a fool to walk away from it just because you have to decide between paying an American Express bill and going grocery shopping. Like, you do not turn your back on an opportunity like that, because it just, my experience, I can't speak for anybody else, but my experience has shown me that no matter how many times I've tried to get back at it, it does not feel the same. It just, once you've kind of, if you look at like singers, artists, once they kind of like step away and stop recording, when they try to come back, they'll have their core fans there, but it's very hard to like really propel yourself. You got to do something different. You got to really step into a different realm. That's why it's like, for me, I don't believe that I can come back on YouTube. I don't believe that I can come back and just record video. I don't think that would ever work. It has to be something else. It has to be something different from that in order for me to be fulfilled. I love watching, I don't even want to call him Funky Dineva, because I look at Quentin and Funky Dineva as two separate entities, and I love them genuinely. I can sit and watch every video that man records, and he is somebody who I really I truly would love to work with him. I would love to do something with him, not a YouTube video. I'm just saying, like, in the future, I would love to work with him. I see myself paired with certain people, like I really do, but not doing a YouTube video. It's like something else where we are, speaking or using our personalities, but in a different way than kind of like I'm used to. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just know that getting up every day, going to the gym and working and this ain't it. This ain't it.
Well, I think you made a big first step by admitting that, because there's so many people out there that feel the same way that won't even admit it, for like a number of, especially for Black people, because we are raised to like culturally, like, you get a job and you stay there. Yes. And being in this generation, or just being in this time, you don't necessarily, things don't have to be like that. You can make money and you can follow your passions. Those things don't have to be separate from one another. And however this manifests for you, I see you doing something where you are living out your dreams, and that you're going to be so happy. And like, I feel the energy. You saying that. I feel the vibe, and the fact that you said it frees so many people on that day, and it was reaffirmation for me, because I just started a new job, but I had to. It's a significant pay cut, but and even though it's not. In the job that I was at before, it was the most money I ever made, but I was unhappy. Yes. And I didn't need to be there a long time. I knew 6 months, and I got to get the hell up out of here. And
you know.
Yeah, you know, and you get the hell out. You have to, when the door opens, you have to go through that door, no matter how uncomfortable or how you have to go through that door. Well, first you have to tell yourself the truth, and I got to the point where it's just like, yeah, I gotta find me a new job. Like I vocalizing it, saying it to other people, and then just following the steps. But I think that even though I know that that's one of your biggest regrets not staying, you having you deviating and having the story and still identifying with that passion, I think that's an important thing. And I think that is what's going to fuel you to get you to whatever next chapter that you're meant to be in. But I see so many good things for you.
I do. I genuinely appreciate you saying, especially because I know that you've watched me, and meaning not watch me as in, but if I was speaking in Baltimore and you're in Baltimore, you would be there. If I, was having something online, you were present. You've watched, and so I know that you saying it's genuine and it's true. And I hope that. And here's my thing, and I tell people this all the time: I am never, ever, ever going to forget the individuals who turned their backs on me, unfollowed me once they realized I wasn't Xem Van Adams in the moment. And I'm going to remember sisters like you who celebrated me and supported me in the interim. And so when the time comes and it's like something really is happening, I'm never going to forget to come and bring others along. And when I do interviews and talk about things, the Black LGBT media who I am going to support, because one thing I have learned, like, it's very true what they say. People will attach to you when they think that you're on the brink of something big. The moment they see like, oh, well, he's not really, like, they really will detach and pretend you don't even exist. It's like, wow, I love and receive messages like that, because coming from you, I know it's genuine, because you've always just been so encouraging and motivating. I hope that you don't lose your fire and that you don't lose your passion for what you're doing, especially online, because I do know that this is a very thankless space. And it's like, but for as long as you take care of yourself and your needs are being met outside of it, I think that it makes it a little easier to create when you're not depending on the audience to pay your bills, if you're not depending on the platform to keep your head afloat. If you know what I mean, when you're able to balance both worlds, it makes it easier to do. That consistency is big. That's why I applaud all of you who can do it, because people don't realize it is not as easy as it looks at all.
And again, it's not for everybody. Everybody is not. It's not for everybody. Everybody is not called to do it. So if you're not, don't try to pretend.
Don't try it.
Yeah, it's not. It's not
applaud you. I applaud you. Like, seriously, you. And I don't even, and I don't podcast. This is only the second podcast program I've appeared on, so I don't really know all that goes into it. I have seen some of the editing process very recently, but I don't know all that goes into it. I just know having to create topics and deliver weekly, engage your audience, promoting all of that, and you don't have a team helping. If you're doing it by yourself, yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot. So yeah, I pray that you stay on your path. And especially because something right now, and I don't know how you feel personally. I mean, this could be a whole other conversation, because I have my own personal issues about the way that trans stories are told in mainstream media. But well, I can ask you this question. I know we're running out of time, but I am curious about how you feel. Do you feel that trans stories are told in a balanced fashion from the perspective of ground level? Like, do you feel like when you're watching your trans sisters on screen that the stories are being told accurately, or that balance is being given to y'all's narrative? Or do you feel like there's a missing voice in the writer's room, and that someone, and I don't mean yourself in particular, but someone like yourself who lives in a major city amongst other Black trans women needs to be in those rooms sharing, telling those stories? What is your perspective?
I don't feel like my story has been told yet, and not my particular story, but what I represent. I don't feel, and I love Pose. Pose was a groundbreaking moment. Pose was a watershed moment, and Pose will forever be a moment in time to let folks know that this is how you do it if you're telling trans people of color narratives. I think we can go even further. I want to see fat women I want to see fat, dark-skinned, trans women as the center of their own narratives. And I know that to create that show, to have that type of show, I'm probably going to have to create it. And that's why I want to get into just screenwriting and television writing, because I don't think anybody else is going to make that show that, and not even just to serve my ego, but just to tell our stories.
I know what you mean.
To show how unique it is, but to also show how it's so relatable to other people. That's one of the things I love about television and as somebody that watches a lot of TV and a lot of movies. It's so much power in seeing that representation on screen. And I don't think my particular story has been told yet, but I take it as a challenge that, okay, and for the past 2 years, I've been trying to just set some time aside so I can at least knock that pilot script and maybe send it out. Cause I was actually researching like the screenwriting camps that they have, and especially with now that Black Lives Matter is a thing, everybody wants to have the I don't know what could happen, but I know that if that story is not out there, then ultimately I'm probably going to have to write it. But I want to rise to the occasion.
And I absolutely positively think that you should. I feel similarly to the way that you do. Only I think for me, the only difference is that with the way that certain stories were told, I kind of feel that wrapping our lives in a bow, in a fairy tale bow, isn't serving the community. Well, I don't know, because a lot of friends would say to me, but Zim, you got to remember it's television. And you also have to remember that the creators don't know if ever another series like this would be created. So why not give these characters that fairy tale ending, so that if this program is time capsuled, you see that, all trans women don't have that negative stereotypical ending. Like, you can have the husband, the child, the career, the education. Like, these things are possible because there are trans women living it. There are trans women I know personally, intimately, who are living it, so it's not unrealistic. I think probably for me, I was expecting too much, for a 3-season, 8-episode per season series. I was expecting too much to be told or too much to be shown. But I'm being told there's another series that's out now that I need to check out. I can't think of the name of it. But
I know it's another ballroom series that's supposed to be coming out on Amazon Prime.
Oh.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's out yet, but it's supposed to be like set in modern times. So
is it scripted? Is it scripted?
Yeah, it's scripted. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. I haven't heard of that. Okay, interesting.
What I'm hoping is that Pose is not a flash in the pan, and that it just opens the door. Like, I hope it's not a Noah's Ark thing where we don't get something else another 20 years. But I think the difference is, and now because we're in the streaming and digital era, it's more opportunities to get a bite at the apple, because every platform wants their own program. So now for me, now will be the perfect time to write something and just and make sure it's copyrighted because I don't need nobody stealing my stuff and trying to
Seriously.
because I know my stuff is good.
Seriously.
Yeah, I feel like more complex, and also who we're choosing to center in these stories. There's no shade to the exotic looking trend, and they exist, but I want to see more diversity within the diversity in these stories.
Do you believe that it was a conscious effort on the part of production to do that? Do you believe that things like that so for instance, and I'm not just saying it for the sake of this conversation, but to me, in my opinion, the episode where Candy was killed and her funeral and the way that they had her talking to her parents and her family, us getting to really delve into her character more in that one episode, I saw in that moment that Candy could have been a centered character. Do you sometimes think it's conscious that, oh, we're not going to put the dark-skinned girl there? Or do you think it's more of, well, MJ and India, they just did that film together and we need two trans actresses who, have experience. Let's use those two girls. Do you think it happens by circumstance or do you think it really is a conscious choice?
I can't say if it's the colorism is conscious, but we know in the background it always plays it's always at play. So we don't know if it was a conscious choice, but at least in those first two seasons, characters appear how they appeared and they were received how they were received in part because of colorism. I think Angelica, because she's had the most experience, she was one of the better actresses on the show. But I think when they came back for the third season, they heard the critiques because the critiques were out and they, made adjustments where they could. But going forward, that's just something that we just have to be mindful of. And also, we have to, who are we giving chances to be behind the scenes and to really lead a lot of these things and, who are gatekeepers. But like I said, I'm up for the change. I have stories I want to tell, and not.
I know you do.
Yeah, I just have so many stories I want to tell, and also I just don't. And what I tell people all the time when people reach out to me, I want to be an attorney. Don't let this title make you ever think that you're not going to be Black and you're not going to be trans, because this profession is going to remind you of that all of the time, and you have to be connected to your people, and also you have to do other stuff outside of this title that makes you, because you're not going to be fulfilled by this thing or by the money that you can make. You have to be connected and be in tune to other aspects of you.
You get it.
Because you're not gonna want to do it forever. It gets old. It gets tired. You're gonna want to. You want to have permission to explore other sides of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you get it. But I know that it takes experience for you. I couldn't have said this 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I couldn't have said these same things. I knew in life that I always wanted to be successful, but I did not understand fully that success does not equal six figures and, your ability to buy and give and purchase. I just want to get to a space in my life ultimately, and this might be a good place to wrap. I want to just get to a space in my life where, for me, success is I can take care of myself doing something I love while also still acting as a servant and my work somehow inspiring or teaching or motivating others, because a lot of people can't say in life that they were able to do something they love, take care of themselves, and at the same time, you know what I mean, encourage and motivate others through their work. That's ultimately my goal. And I know that I'm not there yet, because I do love what I'm doing right now. I do. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't. I love what I'm doing. But there's this other larger part of me that I feel like oftentimes I have to ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist in order for me not to get frustrated or sad or upset, you know, waking up every day only doing A. So I'm glad that you're aware that your profession and what you do is a part of you, but it's never going to take the place of what your deep-rooted passions are. It just doesn't. It'll pay your bills. It'll make you feel fulfilled in the moment. You'll be great at it because, you know, you're an academic. You're a scholar. You're going to be wonderful at whatever you put your mind to, but you're still going to always need this in order for you to, at the end of the day, feel like I am accomplished. You're always going to need this or something like this. Everybody does it, but people like you and I do. And it's foolish to act like we don't, just for the sake of being able to cope. And so, yeah, this year so far is starting off on a really great note. We're not even 6 months into it. I feel transition is happening. So I'm not going to push against it. I don't like everything that's happening, but if it's going to ultimately get me to where I want to be, look, I surrender to the process. Like you have to, at a certain point, you have to surrender to where the universe is taking you. Otherwise, you know, you block a lot of what's aligned for you. And I'm not doing that in my life no more. Like I'm done.
Zem, thank you so much for doing this. You are so important to me, and I just hope you know how important you are to the community, to the movement of then, and to the movement of now. And whatever you do, I just hope that you feel loved and you feel appreciated, and
thank you, love.
we really respect your voice, and we really look to your voice to guide us. And thank you for doing that.
Always.
So where can the people find you at if they want to connect with you? Or
so on Instagram and on Twitter, I am Xem Says, XEMSAYS. My website is not presently up, but if you want to watch the old videos that we were speaking about earlier, youtube.com/Xem Van Adams, XEM, V as in Victor, ANADAMS, Xem Van Adams. And Facebook, I have 2 Facebook pages. My name is Xem Van Adams on both as well, XEMVANADAMS. So I'm either Xem Van Adams or Xem Says across social media. So yeah, come see it out there.
Yeah, I will have links to all of Zem's social media links in the show notes for the show. Thank you all for supporting the show. Make sure you comment. Make sure you rate this podcast. If you have any reactions, make sure you send an email at girldownpodcast@gmail.com. And I will see you all on the next episode. Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Girl Down Podcast with me, Aeon. If you like the show, please be sure to go on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast. Also, make sure that you're engaging with me on social media. Also, if you have any inquiries or you want to send me any questions, be sure to email me at girldownpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, bye y'all.